Okay, this lesson covers the meaning of raising 10 to the power of any number and how to multiply and divide those numbers that are power of 10. Let us begin with the meaning of raising 10 to the power of something. The definition is, raising 10 to the power of n means that I have n factors of 10 multiplied by each other. What does that mean? Let us find out. If I write 10 to the power of 1, then what I mean is 10. But if I write 10 to the power of 2, then what I mean is 10 multiplied by 10, which is 100 as a regular number. Notice that my power is 2 and I have two 10s. If I write 10 to the power of 3, then what I mean is 10 multiplied by 10 multiplied by 10, which is 1000 as a regular number. Notice that my power is 3 and I have 3 factors of 10. And 10 to the power of 4 is 10,000. Notice that 10 to the power of 4 is 1 and 4 zeros, and 10 to the power of 3 is 1 and 3 zeros, and 10 to the power of 2 is 1 and 2 zeros, which means that when you want to write 10 to the power of some number as a regular number, just write 1 and make the number of zeros match the power. If I write 10 to the power of 6, then it's just 1 and 6 zeros. These are all positive powers. What if the powers are negative? What does it mean then? Writing 10 to the power of negative n means that we have 1 divided by 10 to the power of n. Let's have an example to better explain this. If I write 10 to the power of negative 1, then what I mean is 1 divided by 10, which is 0.1. But if I write 10 to the power of negative 2, then what I mean is 1 divided by 10, and that 10 is multiplied by 10, which is 0.01. And if I write 10 to the power of negative 3, then what I mean is 1 divided by 10, and that 10 is multiplied by 10, and that 10 is also multiplied by another 10, which is 0.001. What about 10 to the power of 0? Well, it's 1. No need to get into the proof, just notice that the number of zeros match the power. Now we know what raising 10 to the power of any number means. It's time to know what the meaning of multiplying 10 raised to a power by another 10 that is raised to a different power. Let us go ahead and explain that with an example. If I write 10 to the power of 3 multiplied by 10 to the power of 5, it would be the same as writing 1000 multiplied by 100,000, which is 100 million. This is 1 and 8 zeros, and as we mentioned earlier, this is the same as 10 to the power of 8. Notice that 5 plus 3 is equal to 8. That's the whole idea. You just add the powers and you get the answer. If we multiply 10 to the power of m by 10 to the power of n, then that means 10 to the power of n plus m. Let us solve a few more examples. 10 to the power of 5 multiplied by 10 to the power of negative 3 is 10 to the power of 5 plus negative 3, which is 10 to the power of 2. 10 to the power of minus 5 multiplied by 10 to the power of 3 is 10 to the power of minus 5 plus 3, which is 10 to the power of minus 2. And finally, 10 to the power of minus 5 multiplied by 10 to the power of negative 3 is 10 to the power of negative 5 plus negative 3, which is 10 to the power of negative 8. Now let's go to dividing these numbers that are of power of 10. Look at this example. 10 to the power of 5 divided by 10 to the power of 4 is actually 100,000 divided by 10,000, and the answer is 10, or 10 to the power of 1. Notice that if I say that 10 to the power of 5 divided by 10 to the power of 4 is actually 10 to the power of 5 minus 4, then that will also give me 10 to the power of 1. So basically, you subtract the power that is below from the power that is above. So 10 to the power of m divided by 10 to the power of n is 10 to the power of m minus n. How about we solve a few examples? 10 to the power minus 5 divided by 10 to the power 4 is 10 to the power of minus 5 minus 4, which is 10 to the power minus 9. 10 to the power 5 divided by 10 to the power minus 4 is 10 to the power 5 minus 4, which then becomes 5 plus 4, and the answer is 10 to the power 9. 10 to the power minus 5 divided by 10 to the power minus 4 is 10 to the power minus 5 minus 4, which becomes minus 5 plus 4, and the answer is 10 to the power minus 1.